We're in an area where we're close to 4 states. So we're in Arkansas, we're right across from Oklahoma, we're not far from Missouri, and we're not far from Kansas. And so I thought today we would kind of bounce around. We'd go to maybe a couple ghost town type places, unincorporated type places in each of those states and see what we can find. You know, just a few miles kind of from all those states. But we're starting here in Cincinnati, and I'm in the downtown Cincinnati, which looks a lot different than what it was named for, which was Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where I grew up. I grew up near Cincinnati, Ohio, but you can see we're near a busy road. This is Highway 59 here, and a lot of traffic today. And this town is not very busy. They do have a mall, I guess you would call it a quintessential dead mall here in Cincinnati. And then they have another kind of old historic looking building over here. So there used to be a community here. They had a post office from 1857 to 1911, which tells you a little bit about what they might have had here. And, you know, certainly, you know, you think of 1857, the Civil War was coming up after that. Down the road just a little bit, there's a Union cemetery, which obviously the Union cemetery would have come from that Civil War time. And it's really interesting to check out. There's a lot of old headstones there. It has a newer part of the cemetery, but some really older looking things. Said it goes back to 1846. So this is an old community, even though there's not much left anymore. There are a few houses here, a few buildings, but pretty much not what it used to be. Although it probably wasn't anything humongously big. You know, probably a trading point, a shipping point for this area. We're not too far from, you know, Fayetteville, Arkansas. So people from Fayetteville could even come over this way. But just being not on the main road anymore, towns like this are gonna die off. So just a small rural community these days. To give you an idea where we're at, there's Fayetteville, kind of the most populated area over here in northwest Arkansas, and Cincinnati is right there. Little dot on the map. So from here we're going to head north, kind of straddle the border there, heading through Siloam Springs, keep going up until we get to Maysville, which you can see is right on the state line. Over to Maysville, and we're almost in Oklahoma. We're literally right on the boundary here, state border with Oklahoma and Arkansas. Maysville's a pretty interesting place. Now, there are people here. There is a community here. It's not a totally abandoned place. It's bigger than Cincinnati. If you're curious as to what kind of I think of as a ghost town, you can watch the video I did with my buddy Kurt called "What is a Ghost Town?" We're considering unincorporated places today for this video as ghost towns, and so this is an interesting one. This has a lot of history because this used to be a significantly important town in this part of northwest Arkansas, and it was, you know, bigger than most of the towns. You think of like Fayetteville and Bentonville and Springdale and those places, but this was actually bigger back in the mid 1800s. And this post office has been here since 1850. In fact, it was here before that as another name. So this community goes way back. And then the Civil War came around, and there's actually a historical marker up by the gas station in the middle of town that talks about the Battle of Maysville. And the Civil War was really tough on this area, and especially this town, because after that it really didn't recover. The railroad didn't come through this area. The main roads weren't here. There's some decent roads here, but these aren't exactly big expressways. And so just over time it got smaller and smaller. It probably had 300-400 people way back in the mid 1800s, and now there might be 100 people in the high community, like the rural area. I'm guessing in just this town area there might be a few dozen. You look at the post offices, the boxes behind me, there's not too many of them here. So, but yeah, pretty interesting history, pretty interesting to check out. There's some older buildings here, but there's also, you know, a couple new businesses. When I say new businesses, more modern, like the gas station and the post office. So yeah, interesting stop here in Maysville, Arkansas, right on the border of where we're going to go next, Oklahoma. And obviously this used to be the school, probably the gymnasium right there, baseball field. Now using our Oklahoma Gazetteer, you see Maysville at the bottom of the screen. Gonna head north, gonna go through Southwest City, and then we're gonna get to this little dot on the map, Dodge. On our way to our next ghost town, but we're gonna stop here and check out the tri-state marker. So, we've been in Arkansas. We're going to Oklahoma. And there's Missouri, and this is where they meet. So Arkansas, 1836. Can't mistake, looks like they made this marker in 1955. Got Missouri, 1821. Oklahoma, 1907. So that's the statehood for all three of those. And we were just down that direction in Arkansas, kind of over there. There's Oklahoma sign. And then Missouri's down there. This is Southwest City. Did a video about Southwest City. I actually explored this whole Route 43 in a different video, so a couple times I've been here. But yeah, pretty cool little spot. We may see another one of these later in the video. This is an interesting drive over into Dodge, where the cows outnumber the people. There are not very many people here. A couple houses. I did find a church over there, kind of a nice looking church. And this is downtown Dodge, and had a post office in the early 1900s for almost 40 years. And I believe this road right here would have been where the railroad would have come through, basically in this line. If I look at my map, it goes that way to Grove, Oklahoma, and then would have gone right through in that direction over to Southwest City, where the tri-state marker was. And so Dodge was probably a railroad official, somebody named Dodge that they named this after. But yeah, not too much here, just real small, rural. It's, very out here. It's hard to get to in terms of the roads, as you saw some of the ones I was driving on. Some old foundations of something over there. Could have been something from the old town. Would have made sense because, like I said, I think the railroad would have come through right there. This next part won't take too long. We're just going to go from Dodge up to Cayuga. You can see it's right on the northeastern part of the Grand Lake of the Cherokees. And we have reached Cayuga, and there's some water right there. That's eventually you take that over and it becomes the Grand Lake. And if you go far enough, you go to Disney, Oklahoma, if you remember the video I did about Disney, Oklahoma. So I went down this way because I knew there was a church on the map. There's a Cayuga Mission. And then I got here, it's like, wow, look at that. Very impressive old church. They have a cemetery over here. It says on the sign it was established in 1896. So this community, if we drive on down and around, it's not really a town or anything like that. Never was, never had a post office. I'm guessing it just kind of built up around the lake. And when there's water, people like to live on it, and they can do a lot of things with it. So yeah, it was named after the Cayuga people of the Iroquois Confederacy. And so obviously Oklahoma has a lot of Native American history. Cayuga, we're going to cross over the lake, but then we're going to head east over into Missouri. And we're going to go over to that little dot on the map of May. Well, it's quite the adventure to get over here to the Price Cemetery, which I'm guessing is the cemetery for what the community of May used to be. There's a Price farm over here, I believe. And then there's this interesting looking building. Call that an A-frame. Haven't seen too many of those recently, but not sure what it's used for anymore. Doesn't look like anyone would be living there. There's some older headstones. This one's 2020 right here in front of me. But then as you see over there, much older. So the town or community of May had a post office in the late 1800s to the early 1900s, about 20 years. So there certainly was enough people here to have a community. And so there you go, 1884. That would have been right before the post office. There's another one, 1884. So interesting going over that little bridge with the water on it. I think there might be a church that goes around another road. So maybe we'll go over there and try to check it out. But yeah, this is about all I can find of May. I don't think there's much left. So there was a doctor that lived here, had the last name Maynard, and he named his daughter May Maynard. So it's possible they named it after his daughter May, or just because of their name Maynard. So really beautiful out here, that's for sure. Crossing over a little bit better bridge as we head on over to where the community of May is. That's Buffalo Creek that we passed over for both of those bridges. And there's not much here, a couple houses. And then there's the Buffalo Creek Church right there. Next one, just a couple miles up the road. We're gonna go from May up to Dessa. So we're just kind of up the road from May. May was down that way a few miles, and we came into Dessa on the map. And the only thing I could find here was this old-looking building. What do you think that was? I don't really know. I couldn't find hardly any information about Dessa except they had a post office from 1899 to 1903. Right here on Quince Road and Road Y. Pretty interesting old building. Could have been a house, could have been a school. I don't know, maybe an old church. I'm guessing it wasn't a church. But there's a house there, an old building, but that's about it. A couple houses down the way, but this is the only interesting thing I've found. So I'm gonna need some help if anybody knows about Dessa, Missouri. Dessa, we're going to head north and to our last state. You can see where the three states combine there, and that's also right close to Route 66. And one more state to go, Kansas, and we've come over to the tri-state point for Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. There is that point. So pretty cool that we got two of these. You don't see too many of these in the United States. We got two of them in the same little trip. They also have a little marker, kind of monument looking deal that's been graffitied up and some broken glass down here, but I've been here before. I've actually put this in a video I did exploring around here. Route 66 is right around here. Route 166 is over here. So a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of familiar territory, but we're gonna head into Kansas that way find a couple more ghost towns and unincorporated places. So the green highlighted mark is 166, which I mentioned I had done a video about. And Route 66, you can see right there, right through the area of Galena and Riverton. So let's hop on Route 66 for a minute, and then we're going to go up to that little dot on the railroad there, Quaker. So I'm going to stay inside for the next town of Quaker. There's like a family out there playing, and it's not very many people, so it'd be weird for me to just kind of get out and start filming. So I'll show you what I found. Kind of interesting. So there's a old church. It looks like maybe a couple houses, and then you got the railroad. And so and it's really beautiful in that area, in this area. And you know, when there's not a lot of information to find, you're gonna have to try to put on your detective hat a little bit. And the best that I can figure out, the only thing I did find is there was a post office in the 1880s, and for 7-8 years. And more than likely, when you think about the name Quaker, is actually the post office that I found was called Quaker Vale, same county, so it probably was called Quaker Vale, and then just got shortened to Quaker over time, when it was just kind of known. A lot of towns just kind of shorten their name. And more than likely, Quakers moved to this area in the mid 1800s, and they started a community, a church, who knows, probably a school, and had a small community. And then the railroad came through there, and so it's probably a little stop on the railroad. And then, those things fade away, and there's still a church there. Like I said, the railroad is there, and not much else. So, kind of an interesting stop. When you don't know too much, you can kind of start piecing things together when you do this a lot. But anyways, that's Quaker. Let's go to our final stop in Kansas, which is going to be our final stop of the day. Short little drive from Quaker to our final town of Neutral. Seems like an appropriate place to end the day. And we made it over to our final stop of the day. This is Neutral. We found a church, the Neutral Church. It's kind of a funny name for a church. So this had a post office from 1867 to 1907. And so that's a decently long time for a community that's pretty much no longer here anymore. It is on the railroad, and I think that's the Frisco that came through here. I think it's a different railroad than Quaker, even though we're not too far from there. And I saw maybe one house that somebody could possibly be living in, and then there's several abandoned places here in Neutral. So this is quite the interesting trip. I'd never done a video like this where I just kind of went to several different states doing ghost towns, and you can see how they were very different from where we started to where we ended. And even though weather was a lot different, it started raining and it was really windy this morning, and then it's become a beautiful 70 and sunny day. A little breezy still here in Kansas, but that's pretty normal in the spring. But I really enjoyed it. Did you have any favorite towns along the way? You know, there were some hidden gems I thought out there. Obviously there were places that there wasn't much left, like in neutral here, but I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And next time I'll see you down a back road. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of that video. And since you're here, let me tell you a little bit more about the extras on the channel. One of the first things you can do is become a member. There are 3 levels of support. There's supporter, producer, and executive producer levels. All 3 have different levels of fun incentives and perks. If you haven't done so, please check out travelwiththewiseguy.com. There are lots of extras on there to explore. One of them is merchandise. We have Travel with the Wiseguy coffee mugs, Death Go Round t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and all sorts of fun things to show your support of this channel. Also on the website is a custom Google map. I've dropped pins in every place I've visited and linked the episode to each location. This seems to be a very popular feature for many of you. Also, sign up for my free newsletter that goes out about once a month. There are all sorts of links and tidbits on this page, old videos, podcasts, and just about everything I can think of I throw on the website. Get all that information on travelwiththewiseguy.com. Now for the real reason you're here, the outtakes. Inside this ginormous gas station area here at the Tri-State Point. Pretty cool mural. Imagine that driving by on the highway. Good old Route 66.